Back in my day, this is how we started all reviews. We are covering a famous, legendary story, beloved by all and cherished in the annals of time. And that is the story, the historical legend of Wicked. This movie is called Wicked. All right? And for those of you who don't know, this follows the story. It's sort of a prequel / sequel of the movie John Wick. Okay? And in this story, he found out that Ms. Gulch, the woman who plays the Wicked Witch, the thing, was going to murder Toto, Dorothy's dog. And he was like, hell no, I ain't having that. So he sets out on a vengeful quest over to Oz to kick the Wicked Witch's ass. And he almost does, but then it turns out that he finds out it was the wizard who gave the order to kill Toto. So John Wick beats the shit out of everybody in Emerald City and takes no prisoners. There's a lot of murder in the movie. And he shoots the wizard in his fraudulent fucking face. And that's the end of the story. Toto lives. The band and the dog. This was a surprise. This movie was definitely right. I did not expect it to go where it went, but I was happy to see Keanu share the big screen with Ariana Grande and everybody in the movie. So yeah, that was Wicked. Thank you so much for checking out my review, friends. Nah, I'm just playing. Okay. Everybody calm down. I'm just kidding. This is the story of Wicked. 2024 version of Universal Pictures Wicked. And part 1. Not a spoiler, I promise, my friends, but it turns out this is a part 1. This is a 2-part movie going in to tell the story very much based off of the musical and the book. It is directed by one John M. Chu and running the gambit of so many talents, utilizing the talents of
Cynthia Erivo, Ariana Grande, Jonathan Bailey, Ethan Slater, Bowen Yang, Marissa Bode, Peter Dinklage, Michelle Yeoh, Alice Brooks, and Jeff Goldblum.
It's a pretty hardcore, lined up, star-studded cast. So let me catch you up on a little bit of the things because I'm so incredibly wicked. The movie of Wicked, if you are unfamiliar and uninitiated with this story, it was based off of a book written in 1995, and that book was based off of the original stories way back in the days of the original Oz. As Herbert R. Pumpkins, Pumpkin R. Herberts, Lefty Golden Herberts. Basically, the man who wrote the original world of the Wizard of Oz. And from what I hear tell, that is a hefty mythos, friends. There are, at least from what I understand, 5 books in the original stories of just tracking everything going on with the wizard and Dorothy and the goings-ons about Oz. But this movie is based off of a sort of dissection and real kind of hardcore examination about what could potentially be a kind of a revisionist telling of the goings-ons of Oz, and giving you a bit of a backstory about the infamous Wicked Witch of the West. I have not read the book. I just know the musical and I know this movie. This story puts Elphaba, the Wicked Witch of the West, in the forefront. She is your main protagonist. You kind of see a little bit as she is a kid, her acceptance into this magical school / scientific college called Shiz. And this magical school was pre-Hogwarts, and since it is a school of advanced magic and sciences, it means they know how to use wands and a gold-plated high-caliber Desert Eagle handgun. So basically what I'm saying is Hogwarts ain't got shit on Shiz, because they study it all, my friends. They study it all. But there you see everything kind of transpiring with Elphaba since she was born with green skin. She's always been an outcast. You see all of her turmoil, her strife, what happens between her and Glinda, and you'll see why it changes. It's full of fun, happy musicals. It's full of crazy, weird, dark things going on in the land of Oz. And man, it is just... You realize that Elphaba unlocked almost weird conspiracies filled you realize that Oz is filled with a lot of turmoil and strife and a buttload of bull crap. So it's kind of nuts. Initial thoughts for Wicked. Gotta say, my friends, your friendly neighborhood Heyoka was simply this. It was a very welcome and enthusiastic surprise to me. Because I had initially thought that, like, if it flopped, or if it was something that wasn't terribly different from the musical, I would have just kind of like, oh, I'll put it off and I'll watch it to, like, I'll save it for another date or something like that. It delivered on so many levels. Now, you're probably asking, hey, Dimitri, my friendly neighborhood Heyoka, why? What made it so thing? Well, I'm super happy and glad and just so elongated that you asked. So the movie was directed by one John M. Chu. If anybody doesn't know, my man, he's most notable works that you might be familiar with. He's the director of Crazy Rich Asians, and he did the film adaptation of Lin-Manuel Miranda's musical in the Heights. Vision, extremely solid, and him and his entire team really did a pretty fantastic job at capturing the grand imaginary world of Oz. It's very beautiful and like kind of crazy, spectacular, and everything like that. So you have, as you can kind of see here, like you have really kind of fantastical elements going into the way of like the set designs and the pieces over and everything. So it does really punctuate the fantastical element that is Oz. And there's a lot of like, because the colors are a little bit more saturated, and you have, like, check out Mama here, her green against Glinda's, heavy backdrop of pink. It definitely lends itself, that beautiful color palette, to the fantastical element of Oz. But I will say there's also like a real sense of foreboding and a sense of dread in the land of Oz. Like it has like a fog over it, and you really learn why as far as for when the story progresses, because you really do find out that Oz is sucking a bit of butt lately. So it's really cool. And the movie has a lovely hybrid of practical sets and effects. Just, man, whenever you have that kind of hybridization of the perfect means of using practical effects and computer generated effects, it's the best. It's Titanic, it's Jurassic Park, and everything flowed pretty seamlessly, I would say, in this movie. I did hear a little thing that the director said he was very much inspired by the old illustrations from the original novelizations, or the original kind of children's books and everything like that. You definitely kind of, if you see kind of these types of illustrations, you get a little bit of that sense when you have, especially working in like with the costumes and some of the colors going in with Wicked. You get a little bit of that, see, kind of a hyper exaggeration going. And he was also apparently very much inspired by the Chicago World's Fair. And that is crazy evident when you watch the movie, especially when you get to the design of Emerald City. It's very just, oh my god, it's overwhelming, and it's obviously supposed to be, because Emerald City is supposed to be, the beacon of society and the place that everybody wants to go, because you got to meet the famed, you got to meet the famed and ever so powerful, ever so special Wizard of Oz. And just like the World's Fair, in Emerald City, you have H.H. Holmes murdering people. I'm just kidding. But like that sort of like towering and sort of grandiose classism decor really does, it makes the city feel magical, but there is an uneasy nature to it, because things are so like, it's bombastic, and it's unsettling because of just like the nature of these idols coming into you thing, and it's there's something obviously a little fabricated about it. And some of the notable set pieces in the movie are definitely the Emerald City and that whole transition going into there. And there is a musical number that happens in this sort of really cool turnstile watch-like circular library that they have inside Shiz for a musical number called Dancing Through Life. Absolutely fantastic, and again, you can never go wrong with really, really well engineered practical sets, and it just adds to the beauty of the world. The sneeze is coming. The Shiz sneeze. Now we move on to musicals. The music aspect of this, I mean, top notch. Top notch. In the movie, I believe they added one song, like an original song that they did specifically for the movie. And they had to maybe trim and combine a few songs from the musical to just kind of save time and everything like that. But honestly, it doesn't take away from the flow of the movie really all that much. And unless you are really a fan of the musical and you kind of know where songs go and at any given point in the story, it's not going to take you out. If you're unfamiliar or uninitiated with that, it's not a problem whatsoever. And I gotta say, it handled the music stuff very well, because translating musicals to cinema is quite difficult. If you did like a one for one, it sometimes it wouldn't work because you're dealing with a completely different medium. Sitting back in a grand spectacle in a theater like that is so different than watching it and you're able to capture everything from the camera. It's very, very different. And they actually took the musical aspect and dialed it down a little bit. I would say the movie actually went a little like 60-40, I would say, where 60% was movie and a particular type of like cinema, getting close to the characters, really getting personal with the characters and the situations going on. And the music was actually the spice and the toppings or the frosting, as you can say. So let's move on to performances in the beautiful movie. And I will say, my friends, this is a solid, concrete, diamond-crusted cast, all right? Everybody, from the background dancers to the singers to the supporting cast, everybody was working quite well, and I definitely felt everybody was bringing their ruby slippered A games to the screen, and I really, really appreciated that. Michelle Yeoh and Jeff Goldblum, legends of the screen, I gotta say, it works very well because they both have like an intimidating sense of authority, and they bring about a darkness to their roles that are pretty well, established and very well explored in the third act of the first act, because there's a two-parter, and it's part one, but it's the third act of the first, because God damn it. But yes, fantastic. They just it's a very Michelle Yeoh can definitely bring that type of intimidating, just a scandalous power, and you don't see it too often from Jeff Goldblum because he's usually kind of the eccentric nice guy, but he can play, sort of scandalous and dirty and evil very well. If you've never seen The Fly, he can get pretty intimidating in one way, shape, or form. But all the supporters, especially like the friends, like Bowen Yang, and I think the other woman's name is Bronwyn James. Yeah, it's like Galinda's little snooty-esque friends who give like those mean girl, snooty hierarchy things in college. Like they're kind of like the part of the antagonization of Elphaba, the Wicked Witch of the West. They're pretty good, and they're really good at building that sort of life around how everybody's just really just has a problem with Elphaba because she's green. They did say that Shiz University is a university, but I will say I did get more high school vibes of the things going on, again, especially with what was going on with poor Madame Elphaba. It wasn't a problem. Honestly, it wasn't really a thing. I was like, oh, but this is a college. How are they having like these types of cliques and these types of things going on with the uh in the nature of a university? It's like, at least in America, going to colleges are so big, and I don't know if you have that type of things, but it's so big and you're always usually so busy. So who knows? If anything, that type of atmosphere, that high school s thing happening at a university, actually kind of punctuates and really makes you root more for Elphaba, because it really cements the fact that she's the underdog and she wants to do, you're really kind of trying to be on her side. My man Jonathan Bailey plays Fiyero, does a good job as Fiyero, that pompous prince ass kind of person. He gave me real sort of Prince Charming from Into the Woods vibes. Nice little arc and a little bit of dimensionality coming in with him trying to, a little bit of things going on with his actions and stuff, but everybody does well. Now we move on to our main folk, lovely Miss Cynthia Erivo and lovely Miss Ariana. Is it Grande, or when I see her name, I think it's Grande, like Ariana Grande. I'm just gonna call her Ariana Grande, which is funny because I hear tell she's not very big. I legit have to say, solid work from Miss Elphaba and Miss Glinda. Like, they are a pair of powerhouses that fall on you and jack your shoes once you're dead. But yes, Miss Grande, who is known for more of her pop stylings, obviously, and her popular music and stuff like that. But people forget that Ariana is quite skilled, and even her acting ability is top notch here. I know there was some kind of thing like, oh my God, she's just going to be more poppy with her vocals and everything like that, and she wouldn't be able to access her musical theater talents. Ooh, I gotta tell you right now, friends, absolutely not the case. She was able to shift that specific dimensionality of her voice to match a more musical-esque tone. But I will say, when the pop inflections, or maybe those little pepperings of pop singing, went into her performance, it actually really, really worked for Glinda, because she's popular, and it really just added to that particular sort of waft of her character, which worked beautifully well. If that was intentional, spot on. Even if it was an accident, spot on, because the happiest of accidents, and it worked perfectly for everything that she's doing for the character of Glinda. And Ariana captures a pretty beautiful sort of vacant naivete toward all things, because she's just so self-centered. So if something doesn't come to her, or have it, like, she just plays it beautifully, of like, not malicious or even like completely snooty. She just legitimately doesn't know better, which is great. And I really gotta say, as sharply as she played it, most of the comedy is filtered through Glinda. She is responsible for a lot of comedic beats, and she nails them. She nails them pretty rock solid. As we go to Miss Cynthia Erivo, I gotta say, lovely casting choice for Elphaba. Miss Cynthia Erivo brings a sort of quiet and profound dignity to Elphaba. She always kind of maintains her assertiveness, because you being bullied and just outcasted so much of that in your life, you develop a skin, you develop some wit, you develop a thing, but she never oversteps it, which is kind of cool, because she always knows she's at a disadvantage with a bunch of people, and she's usually the one that gets in trouble. So she asserts herself, but she knows when to sort of just pick her battles. And I gotta say, that little character nuance is completely smart, and she would know. Like, Cynthia Erivo and Elphaba would know. So it was a beautiful little nuance of her character. And I can't understate her solid command of the character. Very solid in herself, and very, very, very strong. Obviously, she's a strong and very, very self-aware character, as she learns a little bit more about herself, but she's very, very solid with herself because she has to protect herself and she has to protect her sister. But man, there is some intense vulnerability going on in this movie. They say bring tissues to this movie. I say, yep. This movie legit pulls on some heartstrings in the movie. And again, no spoilers, but there is a scene in the movie where it is this very, very clear and heartbreaking expulsion of emotions that really key you into the gravity of the years of someone who has that much loneliness and otherness and ostracization and just like that, the years of always being cast aside because you're different. And that feeling, along with what happens when somebody finally gives you like some heart and give you some warmth and compassion, it's chef's kiss. Chef's kiss all day, every day. Yes, chef. Yes, chef. Beautiful performances going on there. And it ruins my makeup, god damn it. Stupid scene. Stupid scene. Anyway, if we're talking themes and stories, as I stated earlier, it does follow a little bit closer to the books than it does the musical, from what I hear. So it goes a little bit deeper into character nuances and interpersonal relationships and things like that. You definitely sympathize, and you get really attached to Elphaba and her plight, and you get attached to Glinda. You understand where all the characters are coming from, because everybody gets a little chance to just live. The world is definitely lived in, and it's very, very very easy to grasp and know where kind of, okay, I know what I'm dealing with. I know who I'm dealing with when I'm going into certain aspects. You also get a nice little dip, not a full hip dip, but you get a nice little dip into the sort of the political strata in Oz. You get dipped into the political pool and the backwards ass turmoil going on with the land of Oz, and the unjust treatment of like the animals and all that crap among the people of Oz, and there's a lot of societal turmoil that they're dealing with in here. The Wicked Witch, Elphaba, resonating hard with, I guess you can even say is resonating hard with current times of a wrongly vilified person, and then you're propagandized as evil because you're fighting against like a secret oppression going on and stuff like that. Everybody's all these schemings going on, some like Game of Thrones goofy ass crap going on in Oz. You'd never would have thunk, but yep, it goes a little deep, but not enough. And I actually speculate that the second part 2, coming out in 2025, is going to actually dig a little more deeper into the, obviously the climax of the movie, but dig a little more into what really is the sort of political landscape and the consequences of everything going on in the land of Oz. But this movie was, what it actually felt like was an introduction to the world, the characters, and just giving you a taste of essentially what's to come. Now, we gotta move on to the thing that everybody, for whatever reason, tends to gravitate towards: cracks in the booty. Okay, what are the cracks in the booty? What are those? What's the osteoporosis in the bones of a movie? The cracks. I gotta say, my friends, happy to report there's not many. At the very least, nothing that's terribly notable that I would have to dive into that's gonna really sour the experience. What I could probably say is, like, sometimes for the sake of the movie, as much as they morphed it really well, translating it from musical to movie and then trying to make the movie its own thing in the proper way to respect the medium of cinema. There were some times where the momentum of a scene didn't quite flow as smoothly into the introduction of a song, which you know, it'd be like something real intense, and then like a musical happens, and it's just like, oh, that's a little weird. It's a little jarring, and it sometimes took away the weight of the scene of what was happening. But not really anything significant to where like you're like, okay, I hate this movie, and then you just look at the child next to you, just want to fucking slap the nearest kid near you. No. It wasn't anything that kind of crazy, but that was something that I noticed, that, you know, it's different from playing out a scene versus going into a song. You know, it's very different. I did hear, I had read some critiques saying that the movie could barely touch on pretty substantial and deep and dark, you know, sort of broader societal themes and the things going on in the backdrop that Oz is using as a backdrop. And it doesn't touch on those very much. To give them some slack and some grace, I'm going to predict that it's coming in part 2, to really get into like the greater goings ons of Oz, hopefully sticking to, you know, obviously the focal point being the characters, but, you know, how you can have the characters explore those themes with their situations and everything like that. But overall, yeah, it's minor, and most of my things where I was like, oh, that's odd, were fairly minor. Overall, my friends, I gotta say, this movie was a legit treat. And people, some people were talking about it that I heard coming out of the theater, like, would it turn non-musical lovers or people who don't really enjoy musicals at all into die-hard musical fans or anything like that? No, it won't. And I'm not even saying that as like a detriment to the movie, because that's really not the point or the intention of the movie at all, really. It's like, it's a story that's easy to grasp. It is accessible to people whether they like musicals or not, and I think that's where it actually shines. A group of protagonists that you can get behind, and what adding musical numbers into a story can actually lend to, with adding a sense of fun, adding a sense of dread, adding a sense of introspection, all those kinds of things in a way that works really well. This musical does a good job of doing the integration of the musicals very well. And I know for me personally, the reason this would probably work better than, say, some other movie musicals is because Oz is a fantastical place. And I feel as though most musicals, in my best of my current knowledge and understanding, is most musicals are inherently fantastical because you break into song and there's a different kind of thing going on. So something like this set in the land of Oz lends itself to the fantastical of the musical and the merging of a fantastical realm of just being in a movie sense molds pretty well. If y'all know of any musicals that are actually really grounded in reality and the musical aspect really works in a cinematic sense, put them in the comments, put them in the chat, because I would love to see those where it really does well. Because like I said, musicals are not they're not my forte very much. But hey, I'm always down to learn. I'm down to really get to know some of these things. I absolutely recommend this movie. It is fantastic. I give Wicked 2024 Part 1 8.7 ruby slippers out of 10. That's my assessment. I enjoyed this movie. I highly recommend. Go and check it out and go have yourself a good time at the theater.